expand. We may not just have football coaches here. We may have other sports. So I think this presentation will help any sport, really, especially the start, stop, continue part of it. It could work in the business world, a lot of areas. But and for those football coaches out there, I understand a lot of it is relative in terms of size of schools and, whether you have spring ball or not. We don't have it here in Ohio and certain things like that. But hopefully you'll be able to get something from this. At the end of my presentation today, you will see my contact information. If you need to get a hold of me, please feel free to do so. So let's go ahead and get started. Like Alan had mentioned before, we're going to talk about our start, stop, continue. It's a postseason staff meeting to cover everything from your year-round calendar to off-season training. Basically, a little bit also here to help out with who we are. We're a public school here in the wonderful state of Ohio, down here in Cincinnati, and we're in the largest school classification. We've got about 1,000 boys. We've been pretty darn successful at what we do, and a lot of this is because not only are we blessed with a lot of great athletes. I would be lying if I didn't tell you we got a lot of troops. There's no question about that, and we got a lot of great players. I got a lot of great assistant coaches. We got a community that takes a lot of great pride in what we do, and but our kids have bought into our system, how we work hard, things like that, and how we organize things with what we're going to cover today, and all that is a huge part of why we're able to be so successful. You can see a little bit there. We all, as coaches, we all have egos, so you like to toot your own horn a little bit. But that shows you a little bit about who we are right there in that first slide. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into it here. And basically, what we have here in the state of Ohio is there are 28 days from the final contest until the first contact with your players. Now, they have changed that, and that relates to all sports. They've changed it a little bit from the standpoint that we now have a 4-by-1 rule, which means at any time one coach could coach up to 4 kids with no equipment. The only would be use of a ball, but no helmets, no shoulder pads, etc. But you could coach 4 kids, 1 coach at any period of time. But what happens is, say, for example, on the football field, I could not have an offensive line coach with 4 linemen and a defensive line coach with 4 linemen on the other side of the field. It is 1 coach, 4 players on campus. So it helps us a little bit, but I sure wish we did have some spring ball. But basically, during this 28 days from this final contest, instead of us sitting around and hopefully celebrating from winning a state title, but we want to use this time wisely. We don't want to sit there and sulk. Maybe we've lost 2 games the last 2 years. We're 24-2, and the 2 losses have gone on to Moeller, Archbishop Moeller here in Cincinnati, who's went on to win the state title. So we don't want to sit around and think about that too long. We want to get better from it, but we got a lot of stuff that we need to handle during this 28-day period. And basically what we try to do is we're going to have our exit interviews with our seniors. Now, what I'm going to show you, what I'm going to talk about in terms of that, and a lot of this you may be doing, it's not the know-all or end-all to it, but I think these are things that are valuable to helping your program. But basically, my exit interviews with the seniors, they will meet with their position coaches, and then they will meet with me. And I put very personal there because what's going to happen with these meetings, there's not a lot of paperwork and things like that to fill out. Basically, what we are going to do with them is talk about how the season went for them, what are their plans for the future, if it's not football or sports related at the next level in college, academically also where it's at the next level of college, or if it's going into the job force right away or the military, et cetera. So we want to make sure that we help give these young men a direction. I've always said one of the greatest pleasures is when these young men and that come back to see me, after they've moved on and to see how successful they are in whatever, venue and avenue of life that they chose. So we want to take some time with them, 10 minutes probably at the most, and see what their plans are and all that. And if it is, college and it's a recruitable kid, then that's a whole nother process that you can go to in terms of how I meet my kid. I had 13 kids signed for scholarship money this past year at all different types of levels. So, I meet with them in terms of different ideas and, proximity, the chance to play. Do they have what you need academically? Your parents going to be able to come watch you play? All that kind of stuff. So you can get into that with them also at that point, and then you follow up with that. The second part is the postseason evaluation or interview or interview. It's usually both with the underclassmen. There's a form here that I'm going to show you in a little bit that we use and kind of go through that with you. And then we'll have our coaches meeting that goes with it. In our coaches meeting, we're going to rank our top 50 players. Now, there have been years where we've not got to the point where we've ranked 50 because the talent hasn't been deep enough, and once you got past 30 names, there wasn't a lot to differentiate the players. But there have been years where we've been able to rank our top 50 players, and from ranking our top 50 players, we develop our lifting groups through this with our rotations, and it gives us a chance to talk about our kids that we got coming back and share our thoughts on them as a coaches during this meeting and what they're good at and what they need to get better at and things like that. And then we're going to do what we call the start, stop, continue, and we'll go over that here in a bit. And basically, that's what we want to start doing as a staff and as a program, what we want to stop doing as a staff or program, and what we want to continue to do. And that can be anything from a very large to a very small idea. And like I said, we'll go over that here in a bit. And then we have a reevaluation meeting sometime in April, usually to the second half of April, where we'll go back through and re-rank these 50 players. We might have to adjust our lifting groups with the rotations, and we kind of give a chance to look at the start, stop, continue, and narrow it down. Okay, our player evaluation conference form that we use with young men is basically what you see here on your screen. Hopefully you can see it pretty well. If not, like I said, I'd be willing to share you and send you this PowerPoint. And this is not the know-all and end-all, but it's one that we've found it's been very successful for us. It's pretty direct, to the point, things like that. So, our players that are going to be coming back the following year, obviously when we're going to name, cell phone, all the contact information, that you would need, that you can see up top. But what we basically do is look at these players, and we're going to rate them in each of these following areas. And obviously 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And we will have this filled out for them as they come in. And basically what I do is the assistant coach of their position fills this form out first as a rough draft. Then I will sit down with them, and if there's some things that I feel that we need to add to it or adjust, then we go accordingly. Sometimes it's spot on. But, we want to look at practice intensity. We want to rank them in terms of practice intensity, off-season commitment, and that's not only in the weight room, but it's in the community, it's in the classroom, it's in the hallways, et cetera. And coachability, are they a young man or a young woman that you're going to be able to coach? We've been fortunate enough. We coach our kids hard here, and they've responded to that. And our kids understand that. And that's really kind of how we look with that, how coachable are they. And game week preparation and how they handle themselves in the game week. And we will explain it to them also as we're going through this. And game week preparation, we're also meaning, not only film study, but how they are handling their diet, things like that. Are they getting enough sleep, all that kind of stuff in terms of game week preparation. And then obviously from the football standpoint, being a team guy, we want team players. I always tell the kids it's about being a part of something bigger than yourself. And we want those type of kids. You're going to have your players, you're going to have your superstars, but those superstars better understand that they're a team guy, and that they're as big as they are, and as many offers they have and all that kind of stuff, they're still a part of something bigger than themselves. And then we'll talk about where we can get a little bit more specifics with them, areas of strength that we feel that they have, areas of improvement that they need to to improve on, or areas that they have improved on from the previous year. Could go both ways with that statement. And what do they need to do in order to help the team most next season? And then our specific off-season activities that they got to do, and that could be anywhere from a physical standpoint, shedding some weight, from a physical standpoint of gaining some weight, from the community standpoint of getting more involved with their community, doing the right things on and off the field, etc. So that's our basic form that we use with our kids that we have. The kids will receive a copy of this, and we receive a copy of this also. In past that we've also done, where we have had some parents where we all know that we get those type of parents, much like you would do if you were teaching. We have the kids take this home and have the parents sign off on it as well, that they've seen exactly where we stand with their kid, and have the parents sign off on it, or a guardian, etc., and bring that back to us so we can have on file. Okay, how we rank our top 50 players after we've gone through our conferences with the kids and whatnot, basically is based on the following things. We sit around as a staff. We're going to look at that young man's character, obviously their ability, but also the potential. We've had freshmen that are going to be sophomores that we thought we needed to rank because based on potential. Don't shy away from the potential part of it whatsoever. So character, ability, and potential, and then obviously the grades. If you're going to invest the time in them, they better be investing the time in the classrooms. To go along with the grades, a nice thing that we do also with the information age as it is, you can go online as a teacher and as a coach, and hopefully you can check your kids' grades at any time. But we also use a grade sheet that the kids have to pick up every Friday and get that filled out by their teachers. I like still using this old-fashioned method. I do use both, but I like the kids. It's accountability. They have to take this paper, face their teacher on that Friday, and get that filled out in terms of what their grades are, how their behavior is, how their work ethic in the classroom, and all that is. So I like the accountability with that part. And obviously their behavior. We want to make sure the kids are doing the right thing. And then their history, their past history in terms of things. If it's a young man who hasn't been able to do the right things, well, he's maybe not going to get in that rankings, regardless of how talented they've been. Okay, kind of jumping ahead real quick. This might be a little tough for you to see. It's a little bit smaller, but that's not the important thing that you need to get from this. This is basically an adjusted from this past April that we had. We had our first, and this just shows the top 25 that we had to narrow it down. And what happens that you're seeing here is in our April meeting, after we did our rankings, we come back and ranked again. And you can basically see from the red and the green here is the individuals that are in green have moved up spots in the top 25, and the individuals in the red have moved down from the top 25. And then we've actually had 3 individuals that moved out. And once that goes back to obviously back in April, looking at character, ability, potential, grades, behavior, and history, because we know from December to April that those things can constantly change. Okay, after we have developed our groups, after we have ranked our players, what we're going to do now, which is a little bit different, I am the head coach, but I'm also the strength and conditioning coach. And what we do a little bit different here, and what's helped made us, I believe, so successful, is that if you're going to coach at Coleraine, it's not a 3-month, 4-month, 5 months, 6 months deal. It's a year-long thing, and you got to be willing to commit to it. Our coaching stipends only go from 3 months, from September to November, but that's not why we're in it. And it's a special place here, and if you want to be a part of it, this is a commitment that you need to make. And what we do while we're training in the off season is each coach will get 5 to 6 players, sometimes a fewer, and each one of these coaches will be training with this group throughout the off season. So it's just not one guy telling everybody what to do. What this allows now is your assistant coaches to explore different areas of training, strength training, conditioning, etc., and work with these young men on it. And there's a sense of pride, there's a sense of camaraderie. It develops closeness not only with the players to player, but players to coach, and it gets competitive in the weight room. And I do know this: anything that we do, we want to compete, and we're going to compete in the weight room against one another. We're going to be buddies afterwards, but we're going to compete in the weight room and on the field, etc. But this is just kind of an example from this past year. It's our actual one from this year in terms of my coaches and their players. And basically what we do when we do this is that when we rank them, we want to make sure that our ranked guys get on this list, that we know that they're in a specific group. Our unranked young men, I am responsible for. You will see that I do not have a group. I will actually train all the other young men. Now, guys can leave this group depending on if they're not handling their business, and other people can be put into this group if they're excelling. We also do a little thing which I think's really helped us with our organization. We have an activity bus that after track season is over brings up our 8th graders from our 2 middle schools, that they actually join us for lifting for that last month and a half of school, where they can they just do their basic auxiliary lifts, a bench and a squat also, but it gets them part of the program and see how hard they need to work. And I will also work with those young men also with that. Some of my middle school coaches come at that time also. But this is basically our groups after we've done our ranking. Now, what can happen is, ideally you want offensive linemen with offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, etc. But, we've had in the past where we've had safeties as strong as linebackers, some linebackers not as strong as DBs. So sometimes you may get a mixed group where you have DBs and linebackers in a group, etc. So you want to make sure that you're looking at, so you're not changing too much weight around during the course of the weight room and things like that. You want to make sure they're competing, so you want to get kids in at equal levels also comes into effect when designing these groups. Okay, our lifting rotations is basically this. What is going to happen is we are a 4-day-a-week workout. So after we have our groups, we've got our rotation here. And what happens is we're on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And the reason why we do this is we will be 1 full hour. We will start at 3 o'clock. We will stretch to 3:05. We will lift to 4:05. So you will commit 1 full hour twice a week to upper body, 1 full hour twice a week to lower body. So if you're a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're working out for an hour and you're doing half an hour upper body, half an hour lower body, you're getting 1.5 hours of upper, 1.5 hours of lower. In our system, you're getting 2 full hours upper body, 2 full hours lower body. Now, some of you may think, well, a half hour a week, how much, does that do? Well, over the course of, 20 weeks, it definitely, it's definitely very, very beneficial. So, but what will happen is we basically have 4 stations, 4 areas. And what we'll have there is there are 4 15-minute rotations. So, for example, if you look at the top, one of the offensive line coaches, his group on Monday will start on bench. After the 15-minute period, they will rotate, go to cleans. After that 15-minute period, to upper body auxiliaries. And after that 15-minute period, they will go to choice. And choice is what's really nice, that this now allows you to let your coaches explore, because this is their group, in terms of different activities that they can do that 15-minute to help strengthen their upper body. And it's really cool to see some of the stuff that your coaches can come up with. And if you look down the list, and I won't bore you with most of it, but it's there for you, of how they will rotate and throughout that. Now, what will happen is this list you will see here in front of you changes week to week. So, for example, where Coach Waltz from the top Station 1 bench, on week 2 of lifting, his group would start at clean, then auxiliary, choice, finish with bench. Week 3, they would go auxiliary, choice, bench, clean. Week 4, start choice, bench, clean, and auxiliary. we want our kids to bench when they're tired. At the end of the workout, middle of the workout, we also want to give them the benefit of benching at the beginning. Same way with the squat, et cetera, et cetera. We want that muscle confusion, and we want to make sure that we're maximizing everything that we do. So we have a rotation process that goes through that also. Okay. Our start, stop, continue part of our meeting that we will do is basically just exactly how it sounds. And these are specific examples from this December's meeting. Basically, what we want to do is we want to say, what do we want to start doing as a program? What do we want to stop doing? And what do we want to continue doing? And it can be a major thing, a minor thing. And what I really like about this is it gets a chance for your coaches, your assistant coaches, to share some ideas. In terms of other times that they may not be voluntary with the information, this gives them this. You're asking for their input. You want their input. You're making them accountable, et cetera. So I'll go through a few of these just to see how you can see some of it is. For example, if you look up top, it says more strict punishments. Tire flips are cardinal reminders, being the Corrigan Cardinals for different things. A stop right across is we did a mulch sale fundraiser in the spring where we would sell mulch and deliver it. Well, at gas at $4 a gallon here in Ohio, that's something we need to stop doing. We weren't making any money on that fundraiser. And if you could continue pregame meal, we have a pregame meal on our Fridays, and we generally like what we have with our pregame meals. It could be anything from that pregame meal to if you see another start signaling the formation. There's a coach that said mix in some fried chicken for the pregame meals, giving the QB for a check for a week. Some of the other stops, allowing players to travel to the game that are unable to address their missing practice injury is acceptable. So maybe like this coach says we want to stop doing that. Maybe come up with a travel list. You can see some of our continues one-on-ones a few times a week. And then I like the stop there, not accepting the game is changing just because we've done things for a long time successful. Doesn't mean we can't tweak things. Obviously you want to be able to adapt. You always get the funny one in there. Coach Schweitzer is he's a 66-year-old coach who actually coached me when I played here. He went pretty earlier in the season, went through some prostate cancer and had a pretty good scar at his belly, and he just for some reason likes showing that off. So we wanted to make sure he would stop showing that off. Obviously, there's another continue there. We want to do morning film session and scouting reports that we do in the morning. Some more start, stop continues. We want to start with a coach in charge of the locker room on a weekly basis. We want to start viewing more film with the O-line in practice. I'm sure that came from the O-line coach. We want to film. Practice has to be done every day but Monday and shared end zone and sideline. We film our practices from end zone and sidelines. We do that, but we wanted to make sure that it was done consistently other than Monday. We want to start putting assistants and volunteers in charge more. I got a great deal with a guy with some protein to help the kids out. You could look at some of the other stops. We had roast beef at the pregame meals. Doesn't sit so well on a lot of our kids' stomachs, so we're going to discontinue the roast beef, keep the chicken. Using youth as an excuse. We need to stop the behavior on our third bus. That's usually our younger kids in our away games. Not lifting the JV during the season. Sometimes with how ours is set up that, our JV's our scout team, and unfortunately they have to practice after practice, so they miss out on some lifting. Last-second meetings and clinics. That must be a coach who's got a lot of kids and an angry wife. But we want to continue. We went to 3-day workouts in the summer. We were 4-week during the season and 3-day workouts in the summer, give them 2 more days to recover. We go longer on those days. We lift 3 days during the season, or Saturday, Monday, Tuesday workout. We want to continue doing that. We have student assistants that we want to continue working with. We actually do an interview process for our student assistants, and we want to continue doing that. And we do 3 buses. We do a defense and offense and a JV bus. We might actually add a 4th. Some of the other ones, and you guys kind of get the gist of this. Hopefully I'm not boring you too much, but it could be from a smaller thing to to a pretty big thing. But, some of the other starts, monthly rewards, get the calendar completed early, finding, ways defensively to use our speed to negate size. We ran into an issue there with Moeller being so big. More staff gatherings during the off season, rotating a coach in charge of punishment, stop distractions, not holding certain kids accountable, using kids on scout team that don't listen, too many people on the sidelines on the games. We have a lot of people down there that want passes and all that for our games. I guess that's a good problem to have. Another stop allowing bad officials to officiate. Speak up. We have a officials rating system here in our league, which helps for that. We want to continue one-on-ones and situational practices. Okay, on field we film with an iPad. We film from the press box. We film from the end zone. We also use iPads on the field. For example, we're doing one-on-ones pass rush, or if our kicker off film is footwork, where he's placing his plant foot on extra points, PATs, etc., and we can give them immediate feedback on the field with those iPads. That's been great for us. Pre-practice or team stretch, we like how we're doing that. Competing in everything we do. And some of them are a couple redundant. I'll skip past those. But as you can see, normally what happens is your stops will be less than obviously the starts and continues. Hopefully that's the way it is. But some of the other starts you can see down there on the left end of the screen. Competition lifts. That's been a good one that we started here. More good on good in practice. Classroom film time, more of that. We got away from some of our tempo practices. We wanted to start to reinstitute that. We have walkthrough sessions. We do a free NFL camp put on by the high school player development here that we like to do. And the coaches you can see in the bottom right of the continue like how we do our 2-day schedule. And then last but not least, last page with some of them, some of the continues. We have an annex, which is a room off our storage where we put some extra weight equipment on, which is by one of our old grass practice fields that's got a lot of hills that we can use that for our 15-minute choice time. We do a value card sale that we make a lot of money off, and our car wash is a good bonding for us. So we want to continue doing that. We wanted to start going to opposite position clinics, not just to your own position, learning about what the other guys are trying to do against you, and need to get more players out for football for scout teams. Freshman class should help at a larger one. So those are some examples of our start, stop, and continue. There's a few more here. They could be anything from, like I said, from the smallest thing. There's a specific, if you look at the start, a jumbo package. One of our coaches O-line coaches wants to get a jumbo package in, get some receivers out. We run the triple option, been doing it for 20 years. Wants to get some bigger personnel to help out with our option. And then competition between coaches to motivate players, things like that. And a few more right there. Okay. On our calendars, and I put up the specifics of our calendars, what we do is I try to have the majority of this done at that first meeting in December, because I want to get it out to them early. We want to know exactly where we need to be, at each day where we need to be in terms of our off season. If you look at it here in terms of our off season, basically what we do is, we take our 28 days non-contact. This was from this past year. Like I mentioned, we're 4-day-a-week lift. We're off on Wednesdays. And yes, you do see that there. When we get to Christmas break, we will lift in the morning. We do lift on Christmas Eve. And I do get a few phone calls from moms and things like that. And some of you are probably thinking, well, how much stronger can you get on Christmas Eve? You just give them an extra day. But we basically do it more for the mental edge, to be quite honest with you, because during one of my pregame talks, I will definitely pull that out where, I'll remind them that opponent that we're playing did not lift on Christmas Eve, wasn't up here paying a price on Christmas Eve like they were, and we will lift on New Year's Eve. And then what will happen in January throughout the rest of our break, I will give them January 1st off, whether it falls on a Wednesday or not. So they do get Christmas Day, and they do get New Year's Day off. And then as we get back to school, we're to our 3 to 4:30 workout. And then what will happen is our dynamics. I do not have a lot of young men. If I have a team of 100, I might have 25% of them driving. So if we don't have school, we'll go to 4 straight instead of Wednesdays off. So that's just kind of the grind through the January part. Some examples of our calendar, like I said. And then February here, we get through it. We got our coaches clinic at state, and this is why you have this as a meeting. Who's all going, et cetera, things like that. We do a midnight lift. That's after the last home basketball game. We'll go cheer on the basketball team. It actually doesn't take place at midnight. It takes place after the basketball game. But then after the basketball game over, we'll rush the floor. We'll stretch. We'll come in the weight room. This is a time for the kids' parents to come see about how hard they've been working, exactly how we do things in the weight room, et cetera. It's a little chaotic that night, but it gives the parents a chance to see what we're doing and lets the kids have a little fun at the basketball game. And then if you see on the notes down on the 18th, we start our 5x5 in terms of our lifting, and I'll go through the rest of that here in a bit. We'll start off, most of everything on 3x10s, 4x10s, things like that in terms of sets and reps. And then on the 18th, we want to have a specific day where we'll start going our 5x5 in terms of heavier weight, lower reps. As you get into March, you'll see that we have all our weights there still listed. Spring break, we will go 3 days a week, give them a couple off, and then we actually will test the week of the 31st that you saw there for our percentages. We want to get our percentages for when we do our next month of our 5-4-3-2. So we do sets of 5-4-3-2 with our percentages. We'll start that started on April 7th that you can see down there at the bottom. In the month of May, we have our car wash Memorial Day weekend, which we use as a fundraiser for the kids, but obviously you can see that the weights and all that those days are there. And then in June, what happens is obviously summer gets a little more chaotic. We had an interesting year this year. We did not get out until the 13th of June. We got out early last year. They were doing some renovation here at school on the 3rd floor, so we got out early last year, started late. So therefore, we paid the price with a couple snow days, so we did not get out till the 13th this year. So if you can see, I list a lot of the camps that we have around here because a lot of our kids, those have become a big important thing where the kids are going to now. So kids get this calendar, as well as the coaching staff. And then the other thing that you will see if you look down, our youth camp is on there that's been going on this week. And if you look, here we are at the 18th, exactly what's going on. And you'll notice there, Fish is Coach Fisher, my D-line coach. He's on vacation. And that's that's part of the reason why having this meeting and having this calendar and getting this out of the way. Now, he might not know in December that he was taking this vacation this time, but when coaches do, we go ahead and get it in. And then I just add it as we go because we want to make sure that we got his group covered as we're working out. So we want to exactly know and list when everybody's on vacation. You can also see the rest of the month there. We did testing for our board, our strength board, and our weight room started on the 9th. And as you can see, like the other coaches' vacations and all that are mentioned there. And like I said, it's as specific as you can be with the calendar and everything. It just helps more with the organization, with your staff, and with your program. And obviously, you can see what we get to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday type workout. We get the summer. We go 3 hours. We go longer. We give them a couple more days to recover, so we're not losing so much, weight and things like that. We want to make sure they retain their weight. In Ohio, you get 10 days from June 1st to July 31st, where you can practice with them in a helmet. What we do is we typically add it to the end of July, so we can do a lot of install, so the kids can roll right into two-a-days, so they know exactly what's going on. We're not a big 7-on-7 team, running the triple option and 50 slant and angle defense, but we do some. And then you can see the notes that are down there at the bottom. Also, it'll tell you exactly when we're selling our value cards if you look there on the 21st, et cetera. And then when the freshmen will sell the value cards. And then August is when our two-a-day schedule and, times to be determined there. I always state that, but they've always been the same, but I always like to leave that open-ended. And then I let them know by the 25th to make sure what times that they're going to be they'll be obligated to be here. Okay. You know, after you get through the calendar part and all that, the other next part of the meeting is you want to make sure that you guys understand exactly how you are going to approach the off season. You just got through phase one, which was the organizational part of it, and in the beginning of the lifts, it starts in phase two here. So phase one was basically your organizational part, and phase two, here's the grind. And you want to make sure your coaches understand this. A little bit I've already talked about. For Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday lift. Monday and Thursday, if the bigs go upper, skill go lower. Tuesday, Friday, big go lower, skill go upper. We do the rotation every 4 weeks. So what will happen is after 1 month on Monday and Thursday, the skills will now go lower and the bigs will go up. Rotate this every 4 weeks. Like I said, that's a total of 94 lifts that we have basically during that phase two of the grind. You want to make sure that your coaches understand exactly during this meeting what you're looking for in the upper lift. We're going to bench. We superset everything. Our weight room is organized chaos. This is a time for you during this meeting for coaches to share ideas, but it's also time for you as a coach to know them, to let them exactly know, where you stand and what you want them to do when we're rotating to certain percentages, when you're going to 5x5, et cetera, things like that. We'll clean with superset, as we're cleaning, groups will push press, et cetera. We'll have our auxiliaries and then our coach's choice. And this is a good time for guys to share coach's choice. A lower body coach's choice, just kind of give you an idea of what is meant by some of these. My defensive back coach one year had collected a lot of these old rolling chairs, and our first floor is a perfect square. Our building's just 3 floors of a square. So basically, he put the kids in the rolling chair, 3 at a time, 2 groups of, and they basically had to keep their butts planted in the chair, and they had to run with their butts planted in the chair all around the first floor and then go backwards backpedal. Well, they think it's fun and game, they're competing, but it really burns those quads and hamstrings, et cetera. So that's just one small example of a coach's choice that he's come up with. And basically 15 minutes at each area. And I tell them, I said, we don't deviate from that 15 minutes. We are on that 15 minutes and we're on that clock. You need to get done what you need to get done during that time. Our lower lift, as you can see here, we're going to squat. We're going to superset all that, box jumps, snap jumps, and any of this stuff that you guys may want. I have video on a lot of our coach's choice stuff. I have a whole PowerPoint on our coach's choice and our lifting and all that. So I'd be more than willing to share all that stuff with you. We're going to deadlift, auxiliary, coach, like I said, coach's choice with the lower lift. Now, the extras that we're going to do is that on Mondays and Thursdays, we're going to do box jumps. When basketball finishes, we'll do stations in the gym. And then when the weather agrees, we'll get out and do our stations on the field. And these stations, we do change of direction, shuttle run, 4 corner, et cetera, all that stuff that you're probably doing, okay? On Tuesdays and Fridays, we do what's called burnouts. And burnouts are as much a mental thing as they are a physical thing. It is actually another 15 to 20-minute workout, depending on what kind of mood I am after we lift. And we'll do these every Tuesday and Friday. And we do 4 quarters of this. And the 4 quarters consist of these 6 different exercises. They will go behind the neck press, a curl and press, sit-ups, a bench. They'll hold their push-up, and they'll get in a football position. Sometimes I'll put it on the clock. First quarter, they may have to go behind the neck press for 30 seconds, curl and press 30 seconds, sit-ups 30 seconds, etc. Second quarter, 25 seconds. Third quarter, 20 seconds. Fourth quarter, 15. Other than that, if I don't put them on, it's just when I feel that they're all working enough to rotate them. This has been a great difference maker for us. You'll find out what your kids are made of. You'll find out the ones that want to hide in the weight room, get in the back. You want to find the ones that are up in the front rows, wanting to compete, and you'll learn as much about them, mentally as you will physically. And then after we do that on Tuesdays and Fridays, we'll do straight line speed, bungees, parachutes, sleds, etc. If it's Tuesdays and Fridays where we're in the gym, we'll do as much sprinting as we can, half court through the gym, stuff like that. Okay, on phase 2, basically here, and this was kind of in the calendar, but how we do it is I want to make sure the coaches understand for the first 30 lifts, we're 3x10 or 4x10. And then for the second 30 lifts, we're 3x5 or 4x5. And then the third 30 lifts, we're going to be a 5-4-3-2 with our percentages. And then our testing will start at March and then the end of May with our big skills, etc. And that shows you exactly everything we test in: bench, clean, dip, squat, deadlift, vertical, height, weight, and body fat. And then when we conclude phase 2, we do our Olympics, and the kids, it's kind of throwing them a bone. They love this. We allow the seniors to draft their teams, and what's great about that is you find out how some of your seniors feel about their teammates. It's amazing. You always have that very gifted kid physically who you would think would be the first one drafted off the board, but because the way he handles himself at times, maybe not the most reliable young man, doesn't get picked right away. So I kind of sit back. They do that draft in my office, and I just kind of sit back and supervise, and I can learn a lot about my team just within that hour of them drafting. When we do the events for the Olympics, we have a tire toss, we have a gator push, we have a fat man throw, got to be a big, no D lineman. We do an obstacle course, and we have tug of war, and we do dodgeball up in our weight room. So the winners get T-shirts and all that kind of stuff, and it's bragging rights for a year. Phase 3, we get the summer workouts, which we just started. Basically, what's going to happen is that's 30 more workouts. We're going to go back to our 3x10, okay, or higher. We're going to do Tuesday and Friday burnouts still. Monday and Thursday, we're going to do our change of direction, ladder, cone, tube, etc. Tuesdays, we're going to do straight line speed, shoots, bungees. Also, Fridays, what we've been doing a lot is a longer conditioning, things like that. Kids hate getting on the track. We get on it once in a while, a lot of hills, etc. We will, when we get to the summer workouts, this is also a way we want to make sure your coaches understand we will not deadlift. We don't want to do anything backwise, anything that might jeopardize so close to the season. And basically wrapping up here so we can take some questions and all that other kind of stuff. Got a couple more slides for you. Thanks for bearing with me. How we get our other athletes involved and how we do this is basically basketball. We get those kids after the season, unless it's a O lineman who is helping them in the post and things like that. We have had exceptions where kids will still lift in the morning. Wrestling, we get them 2 times a week for 30 minutes prior or after their practice. Okay, we'll get them. Baseball will work out with us until March when their tryout starts. End of April, the baseball coach understands the kids are going to get strong with us. And then our track kids always work out with us. Instead of doing the 4 rotations, they'll do a core, so they'll do like a squat, deadlift, and then their auxiliaries, or they'll go, bench, cleans, and then their auxiliaries, and then they will go to practice on a day of the meet, no legs. They won't lift. They're off on a day of meet or no legs before. When they get to conferences and states and all that, sometimes we'll shut them down for multiple days to help them out. I want my kids competing. I'm not that guy that wants them being specific. It's really tough for a kid to do 3 sports anymore, but I'm still a firm believer that a kid should do at least 2, and I want them competing. I want them wrestling. I want them playing basketball. I want them playing baseball. I want them running track. I want my kids competing. And I'll leave this up here for a minute here real quick, and then you guys can maybe get this information down if you need here, and I can get you this PowerPoint, and or you can call my cell here, give me a text, whatever, or if you shoot me an email there at the bottom in response, I can send you this PowerPoint or anything else that I do have. And what I'll do here is I will open it up to questions here in a little bit. I can go back, obviously, through the PowerPoint here to kind of help you out. I know it's a lot to get through in a short amount of time, but I think if you can get a little something from this to maybe help you with the organization and the grand scheme of things of your program, I really think it'll help you out. That start, stop, continue that we do has been absolutely tremendous in terms of getting input from your coaches, seeing where your program's at, where it needs to be, And as a head coach, you got to be willing to accept opinions and things like that, and to be able to cipher through that. And I think the organizational part in terms of getting our kids ranked, finding out about our kids, allowing our coaches to discuss the kids so we all know how we feel about that young man, and getting in their groups and obviously our off-season training stuff. So, thank you for your time up to this point. If you got any questions, I think we just ask. Alan, I don't know if you're listening how we do it, but I'm now open up for questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach Bolden. Right now, I'm going to take back control of the screen here and go through some quick things. But first of all, in just a little bit, we'll open up the floor for questions. Coaches, you can submit your questions by the questions section of your webinar control panel. Just expand that on your webinar control panel and then type in the question to me and send it to me, and I'll address it to Coach Bolden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you coaches a couple minutes to think your questions while I go through some announcements here. Just a few things. At Head Coach Academy, we provide free live webinars covering the most crucial executive aspects of head coaching, which include planning and organization, leadership and culture, and money and people. Here's our upcoming webinar schedule. As I said, on June 23rd at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we have Coach Greg Campy, the head men's basketball coach at Oakland University, speaking on developing structure and format in your coaches' meetings and ways to get your administration on your side. So we're looking forward to that. Sport decals. Make Sport Decals your go-to guy for helmet decals, spirit packs, and more. Their promise is to provide you with the highest quality, fastest delivery, and lowest prices guaranteed, or your order is free. Call their award-winning customer service agents today or visit them online at sportdecals.com. Colorado State University is offering college credit for viewing Head Coach Academy webinars and completing some additional coursework. 1 to 3 semester hours are available for leadership training, and 1 to 3 semester hours are available through an independent study. Please contact Dr. Rick Becker for more information. Okay, Coach Bolden, right now I'm going to give you back control of the screen so that you could use your computer screen to answer any questions. So just hit show my screen when you see that come up there. Okay, perfect. So we can see your computer screen. So coaches, again, you can type your questions in that questions section of the webinar control panel. You might have to expand it, so just click on the arrow on the left side of that question section and type those in and send them over to me. Coach Bolden, first question here is how do you evaluate your assistant coaches?
Well, that's there's a process in terms of one that is developed by our district that I have to do that is given to me by the athletic director, which is a standard form for all coaches, even myself as a head coach is evaluated by that one. There are a lot of good and things that cross over that I use also. But basically, the system that I use is obviously, knowledge of the game. I want to make sure, I've got guys who've been with me for a long time, and I know they know football. But the one thing that I always tell them also is I want to make sure that they continue, to learn, kind of like we talked about in terms of going to other position meetings, not just your own. Your D-line coach, go to an offensive line clinic and see what that guy's doing. But I want to knowledge them, or I want to evaluate them on their knowledge of the game, obviously. But I also want their rapport with the kids, how they relate to the kids, not only from the standpoint of can they get what they're coaching across to the kids. They want to have a knowledge of what they're doing, but can they convey that message to the kids, and then, do the kids respect them? Do the kids want to play hard for them? Are they also good with the other coaches? Do they work well with them? Is it a guy who a big one for me that I do, and a lot of this is feel, and what I'll do is I'll organize notes and things like that I'll sit down with each one of my coaches with a yearly evaluation. But I like to get a feel for him. Is it the guy who I don't have to ask to get something done when I need something done, that they're going to take the initiative? And your younger guys are going to struggle with that a little bit, but I want guys that are going to take the initiative. But those are just some ways. And, a lot of it is, you can have all the forms in the world and you can have your evaluation systems and all that. But a lot of it's got to be a lot of gut feel and how how you feel about them, how you think they can help your program, et cetera. And here's the thing, no coaching staff's going to be perfect in terms of everybody getting along great and socially and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have your ups and downs. It's like a family and things like that. And you don't want a bunch of yes men, but you also don't want a bunch of individuals who you feel are trying to get your job as soon as you turn your back. But you want a dynamic and you want it to feel like a family.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question here. How do you decide what to start? Let me see here. Yeah, how do you decide what to start, stop, and continue? Is it like a majority vote between your assistant coaches?
Yeah, what'll happen is when we meet in April, ultimately you as the head coach, you have the final say. And that's what's great about the start, stop, continue is that you're getting those ideas from the assistant coaches. And what happens is you will take that first initial start, stop, continues from December, and you'll kind of take those all in. You will give them, everybody will get a copy of them. You will review them. And basically when you come back together for April, and some of them you're going to decide, hey, this is really good. You're going to implement right away. You're not going to wait to April. But what you're basically going to do when you're going to get to April, that's when you're going to come together and say, okay, we've had time to look this over. What can we do? Well, we wanted to start doing this, but we can't do this because I checked with the district and the policy's this. Or financially, we can't do this. So what happens is you use that time in April to kind of narrow that list down because obviously you're not going to be able to start them all. You're not going to be able to stop them all. Hopefully you can continue, all of them. But you want to narrow that down in April, and you want input from your coaches. But like I said, you have the ultimate say. And when you have the ultimate say in that meeting in April, you need to make sure they understand that and that they're on page with you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question here. Do you have your feeder programs adopt your same off-season program as far as start, stop, and continue in your different phases?
Well, what we will do is on a much smaller scale, we're at a position where, I only have two seventh grade coaches and two eighth grade coaches at the feeder school. So in a sense, I only have 8 middle school coaches. So basically what I do with them is I will meet with them in terms of kind of here are the expectations, this is what we have, etc. What I will do with them is when they do come in, I will ask them to do a much smaller version of this start, stop, continue. I will basically just tell them to give me 4 things to start that they would like to start doing, 4 things that they would like to stop doing, 4 things that they would continue doing. And if the continue doing is more than 4, I also let them know that I'm okay with that. And then I take that information from them, get together with the middle school, administration, athletic director, et cetera, and see if that's something I can help facilitate them with. A lot of it would be, we'd like to start practicing in a shoot, but we don't have a shoot. Well, then I could see financially if we could help them out in that. So we do it with the middle schools, but it is on a much smaller scale.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question. How do you involve your parents or how do you involve your athletes' parents in your program?
Well, what we do is I have a parent informational meeting. One part of it, obviously, is I talked about the evaluation where you can have the parents sign off. But what I will do is I will have a first of 3 parent informational meetings that I will actually have in April, in the middle of April. That will be the first one in terms of we will get together in terms of talking about from the academic standpoint of it. They will get the calendar. They'll get a calendar sent home with the kids in December, but they will get a calendar in April if we need to be updated, things like that. I also like to use the April period because we do our rankings again, And if there's an area of concern for a kid who's fell out of our rankings because of a certain issue, I would like to get with those parents and so they understand completely why. I've always told the parents, I said, one thing you may not like what I have to say, but I'll always shoot you straight, and we'll always discuss it and things like that. But we'll have a first of the parent informational meetings to go over some of that stuff, and then we will have a second one as we get into summer. And basically the one that we have this summer is to make sure that everybody, that's kind of our vacations where we get together and we talk about this is the summer schedule, how we're doing things, when the 7-on-7s are. But it's also to get the kids vacations when we know they're going to be gone. Because if in the morning we don't have a kid there, we're calling home. So, or we're going to pick them up, et cetera. So we'll have that one to make sure that the kids get the summer program together. And then we'll have our Meet the Team night that we will have in August, and that will basically follow things such as, policies and procedures, expectations, pay to participate. We have that here at Colerain High School. Talk about pay to participate, not pay to play, pay to participate. Like I said, guidelines, procedures, chain of command, speaking to position coach first, then the coordinator, then the head coach. Don't call the AD, don't call the principal direct, don't call the superintendent. So all those fine things, and then the team will get to introduce themselves. So we're going to try to incorporate them as much as we can. Unfortunately, this day and age, a lot of times, it's the old adage of 5% doing 95% of the work, and not getting the people involved, as teachers. And if there's any educators on here, you have progress, you have conference night. It seems like every young man or woman, their parents that come, they all have A's. You need to see those kids that get the D's and the F's, but they're not always showing up. So we try to meet with them as much as we can and be forward with them as much as we can with that. And we develop a mother's club that gets them involved to help with our Thursday night dinners and our painting our cardinal heads and all that necessary stuff, concession stands and all that stuff that we do. So we want to get them involved. The tough thing this day and age, though, is I always use the adage, and you should see them look at me. I said, I coach the hell out of your kids. I said, but it's tough to coach the parents. But we try to get them involved as much as we can.